The Oregon legislature formally convenes on January 17th with many critical issues on the agenda. Eye on Northwest Politics wants to give you a preview of what will happen during the session this year, so we turn to an experienced state senator. Senator Lew Frederick has represented District 22 in North and Northeast Portland since 2017 after serving in the Oregon House for 8 years. He's a Democrat, a former television news reporter, and former director of communications for Portland Public Schools. He's also the Senate Majority Whip, along with fellow Senator Sarah Gelser. Senator Lew Frederick, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you very much, Ken. Good to see you.
Well, the session officially begins on January 17th, but on Monday, the 9th, we have Organizing Day. So what happens on Organizing Day on the 9th?
Well, generally, I think you scoped it out pretty well. It's basically people being sworn in to their particular positions, and then a sense of who's going to be in leadership and how that will be developed in terms of the House and the Senate. Now, the difference this year, as you mentioned, Governor Tina Kotek will be coming in, but because the Capitol is in a major construction mode, there's not going to be the same kind of numbers of people that can be there. You can't move around the Capitol. The building is, for the most part, closed. The main part of the building is closed. So you'll be people, if they want to come down, they can come down, but they'll end up probably in the hearing rooms in the office section of the building. So it's a little different because we're putting in new earthquake work to try to get things set up so that the building's a lot stronger than it has been.
With those capital improvements, will those physical constraints affect the legislative process as we go forward?
It will, and it's interesting because most people don't realize what kind of impact that has on the legislative process. On a basic level, we will be holding our floor sessions only several times a week rather than probably every day, because they are still working on those in and around the chambers, the House and the Senate chambers. Beyond that, there's also the fact that you really can't have people getting a chance to talk with one another, and the general public will not be able to walk through the building the way that we have in the past. So that'll affect how people respond and what they're able to do in the building. There's only a small section of the building that people will be able to really work with, and that's in the hearing room area and in the office suites in the building. So that's different. For the legislators, it means that we won't be able to really sit down and have lunch together and talk about things. It's going to be a little different than we have had, but it's even more different than what we had the last couple of years because of the virus and the COVID situation. So there'll be some changes there.
Your Majority Whip. What does a Majority Whip do?
Well, officially, a Majority Whip is trying to find out where bills are and how people in the majority caucus are feeling about particular bills well before they get to the floor of the Senate. And that's primarily what I'll be working with, is talking with folks about what's going on. But I'm also, because I'm interested in the rest of the state and how things are going in the rest of the state and the concerns there, I spend a little bit of time, as much as I can, out in other places. One of my favorite places is right behind me here, but I try to make it to the rest of the state. I was in Ontario, I think, 3 times this last summer, and in Hermiston, and in Medford, and on the coast, several different places on the coast. And so I try to get out to find out just how people are feeling and what they want to see in terms of issues.
Well, I'm sure all of our viewers know, but that is Crater Lake. That's right behind you. Now, you're on more committees than any other senator, including the Public Education Committee, Ways and Means, some very important committees. Why take on all of that, and do you expect your committee assignments to change during the next session?
Don't expect. Well, there are some changes that have taken place, but in fact, I'm now on the Capital Construction Committee as well. But in the last session, I was also on the Redistricting Committee, and that's no longer going on. So there are some changes that would take place. But with the Senate, because we have 30 senators, we end up having to deal with a lot of different committees. Everyone does. Some a little bit more than others. Some folks are only on 2 committees, but they have committees that are, in fact, really that will have 400 or 500 bills introduced into them. So they have to work with that. I'm on education, several education committees. I'm the co-chair of the Education Subcommittee for Ways and Means. I'm on the Senate Education Policy Committee. I'm also on two transportation committees, the Interstate Bridge Committee and the Joint Transportation Committee. And then, as you said, Ways and Means, I'm also on Capital Construction, which is a committee I haven't been on in the past, but should be very interesting because it's one of the committees that actually lasts until the end of the session as we're making decisions about what's going to be taking place. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exhausting. I think I have two committee meetings each day, at least two committee meetings each day. Some days I have 4 or 5 during the session. So it's going to be exhausting, but we get things done, and that helps a great deal. We get some things done that actually work for the people of Oregon. So I don't mind being on those committees. I will be tired. So if you don't see me around running around in July, that's because I'm trying to rest. But it's going to be July before I'll get that rest.
What will be the priority issues in the legislature this year from your perspective?
Oh, I think people might pretty much know those issues. That's what we're working on. We're working on, obviously, the homelessness issue, the housing issues, the public safety issues. We're going to be looking at those. The schools, how we provide really, truly world-class schools for everyone in the state of Oregon, what that means, how we deal with tax issues. One of the big issues that I don't have bills on, but I will be certainly dealing with is transportation. How we move people through the state of Oregon, goods and services and people back and forth across the state as well as between the states. So how we get into Washington and how we get back from Washington or back and forth, and that includes the interstate bridge. It includes how the potential of how we're going to be constructing and doing new things in terms of the 205 and several of the bridges through there, as well as some significant transportation projects that take place along the coast and in Eastern Oregon, Central Oregon. So we've got a lot to do on those issues. I think you're going to see also healthcare continues to be an issue, especially dealing with mental health and how we recruit, retain, and support the folks who are dealing with mental health issues throughout the state. We know that that's a huge issue. COVID basically pointed that out even more so. So we've got to work on that and getting the staffing for people to be able to really reach to talk with folks about addiction and alcohol support issues. Those kinds of things are going to also be part of the list. So I think people know what the list is in many cases, how we get those things done, what kind of work we can work together with that's successful. That's what we're going to try to keep doing.
We've got less than a minute here, but how many bills do you expect the legislature to consider this session?
I've heard estimates of about 4,000, and less than a fourth of those will probably get through the whole session. But it takes a while to get through the session. We have 30. Let's see. I think it's 1/3 of the House has never are new to the House, so that's going to be interesting. That's also about 2/3 of the House have never had a regular session, and this won't be really a regular session, but they will be learning about things there. So it's going to be a very different environment, and 4,000 bills. Not all of them are going to go through, but there will be some discussions about each one of them probably.
4,000 bills. That's amazing that that could even be considered. State Senator Lew Frederick, thank you for joining me on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Good to be there. Thank you very much. Take care.
You too.